It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie, if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, Buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. It's Wednesday at 1 p.m. East. If you're watching live here on Facebook, we appreciate it. Also, if you're on our YouTube channel, which is also branded Focus Group Radio, I'm Tim Bennett, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We're all business except when we're not. John's wearing a dark blue shirt for 40 years. I don't know how many, not 40, I haven't known you that long. 30 years, I've told him to wear a dark shirt. And he would always show up in a little lavender, or little yellow, or purpley, peach.
Summertime.
Camel shirt, camel jacket. And then who told you you look good in dark blue? And now you're in my shtick. Now you're wearing my shtick. So purposely today, I took this shirt out of the closet. Last week, you would notice that shirt I had on was...
Banana
I bought
Republic.
this one, the same thing. This is also Banana Republic, probably.
You said that was 30 years old.
Probably 30 years old. Good shape. They don't make them like that anymore.
I was gonna say if that were a more modern shirt, it would be like the buttons would be cracked.
I know. I like
They used
it.
to make the buttons like what did they call that? They had a name for it, but it survived the dry cleaner.
The dry cleaner. And Tommy Hilfiger was famous for about 10 seconds. He did those buttons, and then
they're more money.
And they broke like a third world person's teeth.
Or a Brit.
So before we, we're going to talk about what's on the show today, but then we have some, as most of you have heard, breaking news from our El Presidente Trump about the LGBT community, particularly Comrade Trump. So what are we doing today on the show, John?
Today we have the random sample coming back, and that's where Tim and I scour websites and newspapers of LGBT media from across the country. And
around the globe.
We should get like one of those toy globes and around the globe, or then the plane goes around. And we each choose 3 stories apiece, and we rarely ever come across the same story. So we're doing that in the back half, and then we have a great shop talk that Tim found called Smart Weekend Rituals to Make Your Work Week Less Anxious. I saw myself in here.
I did too.
Not in a bad way, but just hyper OCD way.
OCD. So on the way in on the radio, and thank you for Pennsylvania Department of Transportation that decided it was a good time to fill in potholes during rush hour on Route 1. I almost missed the train.
By the way, this is everywhere.
It's ridiculous.
It's a good time of year to do construction. I mean, I'm not going to give them an excuse, but...
You do it at night, or you don't do it at rush hour. I mean, you should have seen how angry people were. And I was driving in my all-track. I was driving...
Thank you, VW.
To get the checkbook out. I was driving at probably 75, 80 miles an hour, and the cops were pulling people over. People were so aggravated. I went by the crew and laid on my horn, gave them the finger. But... You don't block up the road. It's Route 1 on the way to the train station or the airline during rush hour. It's 8:30, quarter to 9. You don't fill in potholes.
See, if you had told me that was happening at like noon or 1, I'd be like, fine, because every's at work already, but yeah.
Anyway, so in real time, I'm listening to MSNBC or CNN on the radio, and they announced that Comrade Trump had just sent out a text, and he has banned transgender individuals from serving in the military. Is that what the gist of it was?
It was, yeah.
And
it goes counter to the current Department of Defense's stated policy.
Yeah.
And the text on the DOD's website is very clear. It's, all people wanting to serve, here's the deal. But apparently General Mattis... and there was something you said, there was an incident that occurred that they haven't talked about.
Well, they said
yet.
So as it was happening, and again, it was unexpected. Everybody seems to think it's because he was trying to deflect from all the other nonsense he has going on with the Attorney General and with the Russian probe and his idiocy he did at the Boy Scout Jamboree. But
that's a whole show. I used to be a scout. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but they said that they think something might have happened, but they said it took the Department of Defense by surprise. There's anywhere, you and I were talking at lunch, anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 to 15,000 people that identify as transgender that they believe are serving in the military. And Very simply, you had summed it up perfectly by saying it's a career for some people.
If the Department of Defense markets the armed services as a job and a career path, when the government does something like this, aren't they opening themselves up to discrimination suits? And so whatever money he thinks he's saving by not performing surgeries or not providing care for a trans service person, they'll probably spend it on the back end from all the lawsuits and stuff. I just...
So he's sanctioning discrimination, I guess. It's sanctioned discrimination, isn't it?
I'll say yes, but at the same time, you and I could actually, we could be, you could say to yourself, oh, I guess I see where he's coming from because of the cost of this or that. But no, not really. Not if the Department of Defense already dealt with this. They've already dealt with this. They've already, like, you know, updated the site months and months and months ago.
He's just trying to, piece by piece, eliminate any sort of progress that had happened under the Obama administration. And a whole range of things, whether it's healthcare, whether it's human rights and equal rights, or our relations with countries around the world. It's really scary, I think. And I've always said anybody who, I don't want to say I chickened out, but I was in ROTC for 2 years in college. Anybody who has the wherewithal to serve our country, it's an all-volunteer force. We need people to sign up every year. We need people to volunteer. Some people have had 3 or 4 rotations through with all the wars we have going on that most people don't even know are happening. And if somebody wants to serve the country, I think more power to them. And whether they're trans or bi or gay or purple, I don't care. If you want to serve your country, why not?
Here's one.
There's
the local news here in New York carried a story. It was the funeral of one of the young Marines who was on that flight that crashed. Like, it was a freak accident, equipment failure down south. It was one of 16 servicemen that passed away. He was 20 years old.
Yep.
You know, that's the story to me, is the commitment and the dedication and the belief of what they're doing. And this other stuff seems like a carnival sideshow to me. I don't know why you'd get into the weeds on it. If as you said, if you want to serve, and if the armed forces are promoting themselves like a corporation practically, here's a path to a career, you know.
I don't know what's going to... They were going around on one of the pundits. They were talking about what their prediction was, whether Trump would survive the 4 years or not. Most of them said they thought he would and he'd get another 4. I can't imagine.
I can.
You can? Okay. That's disheartening.
You and I read, well, because of how split things are, that 38 or 40% still fervently believe that anything bad that's happening is not his fault. That they're made up. That's all the what do they call it?
Fake news.
The deep state. There's fake news, the deep state, the bureaucracy's out to get him. And it's going to take a major event where he doesn't live up to the expectations or fails, and we don't want him to fail, obviously, as the president, but something's going to happen. Something needs to happen to change that perception. Who knows what it's going to be? I don't even want to predict it. Or Congress just steps up and, you know, does their job. Or another big if, midterms come, and imagine if you flip one of the chambers. Then you got, you know, then you talk about gridlock.
Just wait and see, right?
Anyway.
So how was, did you have a good week so far?
Very good week. You know, I'm...
You're finishing up your animation.
I was just going to tell you, because you've been a very big supporter of this. I'm 7 or 8 weeks away from finishing my last class, and I'll be an official character animator.
You get a little certificate or a prize or something?
You should get like $1 or something, right? Like a little toy. I don't even know that you get a certificate, but the school I'm going to is called Animation Mentor. It's one of the best known in the industry. So I'm trying to think of an equivalent. Would it be like, what school's like best known for their MBA candidates and stuff? Like Wharton?
Wharton or Harvard.
Harvard. So it's the same.
Or for hair, you can go to Barbizon. Hair and nails.
And that gets you
somewhere between Barbizon and Harvard.
So
it's your school.
Apparently, people in the industry know that the graduates from this program, they give them it's an easier way to get in. You still have to have a great reel. My current mentor, Greg, is a huge movie buff and TV buff.
So is that what they're called? Mentors? They're not professors? They're not teachers?
They're teachers to me, but they're mentors. And they're usually working professionals. So Greg works at DreamWorks. He's been there for 20 years, and he's been...
Can I ask what they make? Do you know what they make?
Animators? You know, I think
I mean, is it like a typical with
60, 55, 60 might
or is
be
it on
free.
scale similar like an actor would get rate?
No, I
scale.
think the more you're in, I think there are animators that definitely make six figures. I don't know how high into the six that would be. My guess is 110.
Yeah.
You know, maybe. John's.
So it's not like an actor getting 325.
John, were you putting your finger up higher for salary? Yeah.
You know, boys in the booth and Allie.
Hey, we got John and Garrett and Allie in the booth.
Google says the average is $63,800.
Wow.
And how many cents?
Did our cupcakes arrive yet?
I don't see it.
We were supposed to get DC Cupcakes. We were promised.
Uh-oh.
Terrence Noonan said he was going to send these
show
cupcakes.
It's going to go off the rails.
John and I were waiting for them, weren't we?
Hey, Garrett, thank you for looking at that. And that kind of confirms my suspicion. So I think at some of the major studios you could make more, especially if you've been there, like he's been there 20 years. And he has a traditional animation background, hand-drawn before the CG. But it's been a great experience. You've walked me off the ledge a couple of times.
Well, I don't know what you're so wound up about. You're creative and you're an artist, so it's going to be fine.
But we're graded, and you know me.
So what?
You know me in grades. You knew me in
You're
high
middle-aged.
You know me in high school with grades.
Who cares?
But you have to pass to continue. So like
You were never in jeopardy of not passing.
well, I didn't know that.
The only thing you were in jeopardy of not passing, well, you didn't do gym in school. You got out of that.
High school, I
You
got
got
out
out
of
of that.
high school,
I still mad at your mother for that. And then the other one was math. You and I weren't so good at math. Yeah.
I had one of the best SAT scores in the school for English, and probably with the worst.
That
for
kept
math.
me out of the honor society math.
Oh yeah, sure, same here.
Ridiculous.
Proud of it, but anyway.
Well, I never use it either. Nobody
Oh,
uses all that nonsense.
Math comes into play, but not the way we were told. If you and I were sitting in physics class or calculus or like what derailed me was maybe calculus. Was it calculus? I think it was calculus actually. Geometry was easy.
Yeah.
I loved it. The theorems,
I
hypotheses.
I'd like to, I took those GMAT things. I went to a GMAT course to go get an MBA, and
Yeah. Oh.
I got in trouble because they would ask these stupid questions like, one factory makes 5 shirts and the other factory makes 6 shirts. So I said, well, first of all, factory's out of business. If you're only making 5 shirts or 6 shirts, so let's
overthinking it.
But or train leaves New York at this time and leaves Baltimore at that time. I said that's a big if.
See,
So it doesn't matter. I don't care where they cross because chances are the train's not leaving on the same time. So let's deal with facts. I don't like a lot of what ifs. That's why I don't like science fiction.
oh my God, yeah, you remind me of Bob sometimes because he reads beyond the question. But take it as is. Sally leaves New York at
Right.
10 a.m. on the Silver Spur.
Right.
Jim leaves Chicago at
A meteorite. The silver bullet. or
When they
whatever.
pass, how far are they from reaching their destinations? Do you know the answer to that one?
No.
I still don't, and something tells me that it's
What do you
really.
mean, why would you know? They're going from New York to where?
I think by the time they pass each other, they were each halfway to their destination, but I could be wrong. If you're out there and you're watching, it's
why would you even-
877-962.
But unless I'm landing a rocket on the moon, I don't need to know that.
6846. I know, but it was a test of logic and dissembling. So you could look at the problem and say, okay, I don't know these couple of variables, but I can make some educated guesses. It reminds me of the time we had was it the book or the author of a guy who wrote something about how you interview at Google?
Yeah.
And it was these
How
weird...
many red balls in Canada?
That was the question. How many, right? It was like how many...
I'd say about 32 million. It's 32 million people in Canada. Every household has at least one ball.
And it was, and there was also questions about like if this many kids, like there
How
was,
many hairs on the cat? Yeah.
you never know, right?
No. Well, it's, But you and I could talk our way out of that. Of course, we're not at Google.
You could have talked your way out of it if it wasn't a standardized test and there was a proctor and you walked up and said, this question about the train leaving, no train ever leaves on time.
Makes sense. All right. Well, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
All right. I grew up with Mad Magazine. It was one of my favorites, one of my dad's favorites as well, which always kind of amused me because every time we'd get the new Mad, he would sit with us and read it, and we'd all laugh our butts off. So irreverent.
Did your father buy it, or was it?
Yeah, oh, you bet. And he loved. There was a thing in the back of Mad Magazine where you folded the back cover, and it would, you did this
You'd
thing.
make something?
And if it folded it, the two halves of the picture came together, and it was a different picture, a snarky picture. Well, Mad is releasing this week, or I'm sorry, it's August. Where did I put that? Oh, here we go. I have my wrong notes. August 8th comes out, and it's called the Mad Magazine's Madropolitan Museum of Art.
Madropolitan.
Trump Collection 2017. So what they've done is they've commissioned paintings by some artists to recreate famous paintings featuring the Trump administration. So on the first slide I'm going to put up, there's the cover of the magazine, and it's a Picasso version of Trump, which I think is brilliant.
I was going to say, it didn't look like Picasso. It looks like him.
Well, it's a Picasso. If Picasso painted Trump, it would be that. And then next to it is an illustration by a man named Richard Williams, based on Emanuel Lutz's Washington crossing the Delaware, and it's Trump crossing the Delaware. Of course, they're going to go over. I think Bannon is holding the flag.
Look at Kellyanne in the back of
Kellyanne's at the tiller.
It's a ship of fools.
Jared's in there. Sadly, and the next one, I think did you know?
Is that Little Boy Blue?
That's Little Boy Blue, yeah. The Blue Spokesboy, it's called. And it is a take on Thomas Gainsborough's Blue Boy. Now, what I love was, sadly, the Spicy Show has been canceled. Sean has left the room, but he was so amusing, right? He lied through his teeth and got away with it. And the last one, here, this is so classic. I showed this to Bob. We couldn't stop laughing. And it's Donald's World, and it's based on Christina's World by Andrew Wyeth. So that's the original. And then, of course, the version with Trump is he's crawling his way back up to Mar-a-Lago with the Make America Great Again hat on.
Put a little duty stand on his ass. Those white pants, wouldn't you?
The editor-in-chief, John Ficarra of Mad Magazine, was interviewed by Vanity Fair, and they're like, why'd you do this? He said, because there's a huge shortage of Trump material out there, and we pride ourselves on being trailblazers, tongue-in-cheek. And he said, seriously, Putin asked us to do it. So that issue hits newsstands August 8th. Yours truly has his fingers on it already. I can't wait to get that one.
I haven't seen, so of course I haven't bought a magazine in a while. I have things delivered, but will you buy that one? That would be fun.
I'll buy that, yeah. I'll definitely buy it. Because there's a bunch of there's a Kellyanne, let's see, there's a painting of Kellyanne Conway. It says Kellyanne
Mona Lisa or
Dancing Around the Truth, and it's based on the Edgar Degas painting Dancer Tilting. It's a famous, so they recreated these things. There's an Ivanka thing in there. So there's 8 commissioned pieces in total. So that's what caught my eye.
Oh, cool. Well, I like that one. I would like to have a couple of those framed for the bathroom.
Yeah, especially the Mar-a-Lago one. Where he's crawling up the...
Mine was a different, of course. It's that time of year, John. Have you been eating watermelon?
I love watermelon. You know, it's one of my favorite things.
Well, it's nutrient-packed, and men should eat a whole lot more of it. Apparently, we're not eating enough of it.
Why men, though?
Watermelon. Well, because it's good for you, and I'll tell you why. So, first of all, it's 92% water.
Yep.
And it's nutrient dense, as the dietitians call it. But do you know that it's? Okay, so here's the first question: is it a fruit or a vegetable?
I actually think watermelon's a vegetable.
No, you don't. You think it's a fruit?
I do. It grows on the ground on a vine. I think the definition. Yeah, I think it's a vegetable.
I don't know. I think it's a fruit. Do you all think it's a fruit?
Yeah,
Fruit.
definitely a fruit. It's
Goes in a fruit salad.
Yeah.
And what is it?
Well, they don't know.
So the booth is against me. There's Garrett John Alley. It's a fruit. And Garrett's logic is very smart. Goes in a fruit salad.
Well, so they said that most people consider watermelon a fruit. However, they said because it's sweet and juicy, but it has the botanical definition of a fruit. However, it's also considered a vegetable in some regards, in the same family as cucumbers and squash.
Vining, yeah, okay.
So they said, however, Oklahoma decided that it was a vegetable, and it became in 2007 the state vegetable of Oklahoma.
The state vegetable of Oklahoma.
Aside from Senator Inhofe. The redder the better. So if it's fully ripe, deeply red watermelon is better than non, because it's full of lycopene, which is an antioxidant. Mm-hmm. It's also good for men. Here's why men need to have it. It's because it's good for your prostate health, erectile dysfunction, and prostate cancer.
Now, question.
The lycopene and and the other thing is called citrulline.
Question. Is the benefit gained from eating the actual watermelon? It's not from pressing it and drinking the juice. It's from the fiber. It's actually eating the watermelon, right?
Well, it's eating the watermelon because you're right. So it does have fiber. However, and it would help with helps your blood as well as lower your risk of stroke. However, Beyonce, or as what's his name, Pat Buchanan calls her B-Ounce, she's decided. B-Ounce has invested in something called watermelon water, WTRMLN, WTR, and it turns surplus watermelons into cold-pressed watermelon juice. She said it's the future of clean, natural hydration.
Weren't they saying that about coconut
milk, coconut water.
Yeah, that was crazy for a while.
She said it also helps her muscle soreness after exercise. Maybe instead of lemonade, she should have called her album Watermelon. Didn't she do lemonade?
So are there claims that this is as effective as having a watermelon, I guess? Or
yeah, so it's the juice of it. So, but it doesn't have the fiber, but it still should have all the nutrients. So the other thing is, they said it's a good source of vitamin A, but you have to have it with, because vitamin A is fat soluble, so you have to have it with a little bit of fat. So they suggested doing it with cheese, which is what Garrett had mentioned about doing a watermelon salad. So they recommend feta with cucumber and some onion.
Feta.
And that would help with the absorption of vitamin A.
I love watermelon. Has always been a favorite of mine, even as a kid. That's one of those rare foods that I did not have to be cajoled into trying out or eating. The minute I tasted it as a kid, I loved it.
Well,
the only thing that bothered me was the seeds, And I remember once my dad said, don't swallow those seeds. You don't want a plant growing in your stomach.
Oh, I used to chew them all the time.
You chew them?
Yeah, you chew them. And then I started spitting them out, and then the next season you'd have watermelons growing all over the yard. My grandmother's house.
Then you'd have watermelons growing all over the yard.
I bought some recently. I don't like cutting it up. I'm lazy. But to buy it all cut up, at least in the grocery store I go to, it could be $10. Whereas if you just bought the watermelon for $2, you could slice it up.
It's one of those deals again.
Have you had watermelon yet this season?
Yeah, but I did it the way you talked about. So I'll
buy it already
in
cut?
a container where it's all cut up in squares. And I feel funny about that because, I know what I'm paying for. Yeah. I'm paying for some guy with a knife in the back room to cut up the watermelon. Yeah. Which just doesn't sit well. So,
well, today's July 26th. Let's see whose birthday it is.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Richard A. Dick Grasso, 71 today.
Dick Grasso.
Born July 26, 1946. In Queens, New York, he was chairman and chief executive officer of the New York Stock Exchange from 1995 to 2003.
I recognize the picture. Okay.
His career started in 1968. He was a floor clerk. He became famous after the terrorist attacks of September 11th because he was
floor clerk on the New York Stock Exchange.
Right. He started in 1968. He wanted to be a New York City police officer, but he failed the eye exam. I guess it'd be like trans in the military. You got bad eyes, you can't be a cop. You're trans, you can't fight for the country.
Don't give them the logic they need to defend that one.
So he went on. So with no college education, he ended up getting an entry-level position in the New York Stock Exchange, but he had a chip on his shoulder because he was short. He was only 5'6". He also had a hot-headed temper. He said he was Italian descent and hated the fact that the Wall Street Club was dominated by wasps and Jews.
He said this?
That's what he says. I'm reading
What
it.
year was this?
So he decided he was going to learn about the stock exchange.
Oh, I see. This is his early career. This is his young.
So anyway, he did, and
young Dick, right?
It was young Dick. So what ended up happening is, of course, there was all kinds of controversy when he left.
Because old Dick's very different than young Dick.
Right. Well, well, not necessarily. So his package when he left was $140 million when he retired.
$140 million?
So he was the poster.
Poor guy.
He became the poster boy of overpaid chief executives.
Jeez.
And there it says 188 million.
See Dick run with 188 million.
So your New York governor and everyone else has tried to sue him. Cuomo,
really?
Elliot Spitzer tried to prosecute him in 2004 over his compensation, but everything was dismissed in 2008, and he walked away with all that cash. He's upset because someone wrote a book called King of the Club, which documented his life in early years, where all these quotes came out of that I said. And he's stopped the book from being made a movie.
But the book is out.
Book is out, but they want to make it a movie. He won't. He's been blocking it along the way. Anyway,
You mentioned
Happy birthday, Dick.
Elliot Spitzer got mentioned in there, right?
he was the one who had the prostitutes, right?
Okay, so if you associated anything with Elliot Spitzer, do you associate prostitutes?
Right. He was the New York State Attorney
I associate
General, right?
the fact that apparently he kept his socks on when he had sex.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't go that far.
Did you
he
guys know
really?
that?
Did he have a fungus or something?
No, that was the thing, though. I think someone
fungus?
either testified or came out, but the prostitutes commented that he'd always leave his socks on, which I think is just kind of like one of those, like, maybe he had cold feet, but, I always think
the socks on.
Kept the socks on, yeah. But how weird is this?
I didn't like feet.
He was the governor of the state of New York, right? He had all this scandal. The only thing I associate with Elliot Spitzer is the fact that he wears socks when he has sex.
Well, he's 71 today.
Which, Spitzer or Grasso?
Grasso.
Dick.
Dick. I don't know what happened to Elliot.
Old Dick. Now he's old Dick. He was young Dick before, now he's old Dick.
Nobody wants old Dick.
That's a whole other show, right?
Now we transition. So, hey, one of our partners here on the focus group is Deep Discount, and we love working with Deep Discount. And if you're a fan of our show, and if you're not, we're going to tell you anyway, but be sure to go over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo, and that will take you to their site, and then you can go get lost, because they've got thousands and thousands of items, not only videos and Blu-ray and DVDs, but there's vinyl and CDs and accessories and merchandise and toys and all kinds of stuff.
Call it the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole, John calls it. Right now they've got, it's season 1 TV sale,
Yeah.
I think is what you would call it. And so John went and picked out a couple of season 1 TV shows. The first one is one that I'm a fan of, and John probably doesn't know why, but I turned you and Bob onto it.
Ooh, especially season 1.
Season 1 I do think is the best. Season 1 and 2 I think are the best, but season 1 of Homeland, which is an American spy thriller TV series by Howard Gordon and Alex Gansa. It was based on an Israeli series. And it was one of those shows that I could never quite figure out what was going to happen. So it starred Claire Danes and Damian Lewis. And Damian Lewis played Nicholas Brody, who was a military sniper who turned, they think, got captured by Al-Qaeda. And they thought he was turned and he was going to be a threat to the U.S. when he got released. And so Claire Danes is a CIA operative, and he's a military person, and
she works with Mandy Patinkin's her boss. He returns. He's the darling of the military, and in fact, they groom him to run for public office.
Right, they want him to be vice president. And
so when this came out, I remember when you said to me, was it Showtime or I think it was a Showtime show. So when it first came out, Tim's like, if you don't have Showtime, you got to buy Homeland, and I agree. Season 1,
you could not figure out what was going to happen, and then in season 2. That part of the storyline comes to an end, so to speak. But it's been picked up for an 8th season, which is going to be its final season.
Are you still watching Homeland?
I stopped when they got to Pakistan. So what happens is Claire Danes, her character moves with the CIA around the world. So she's in Pakistan, then she's in one season she's in Germany. I think this season they're in New York City.
Okay.
Or they're going to be. But I stopped, and I don't know why, and I thought it's one of those things where I could binge watch again. But if you want to enjoy something, I started watching it for one reason. I didn't have anything to watch, and I saw an interview with President Obama at the time, and they asked him what he's watching. He said his favorite show was Homeland.
That's what got you started with.
So that's why I watched it, because he said, I love Homeland, I'm addicted to it. So I said, well, if he likes it, I'm going to give it a try.
So all right,
which also led me to believe it might be not too far from
the facts, right?
The facts, right.
So Homeland makes a perfect buy on Deep Discount for season 1, because season 1 it's like a rocket.
Yep.
Thing just takes off. I also put on our list of must-haves for a season 1 for TV, Arrested Development. Hey, folks in the booth, are you guys Arrested Development fans at all?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Garrett?
No.
I think it's a good flick.
I tried. I binge watched like 2 seasons. I could.
You binged 2 seasons and you're still not okay. It's a very particular humor. Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, the cast. I think it's an all-star comedy cast, but it's quirky as all get out. And I personally think that seasons 1 and 2 are my favorites. When a show's really new and they're really finding their groove, that's when the most fun happens.
Is it like one of those It's Always Sunny in Philly sort of things, Philadelphia type of show?
Actually, I would compare the two on some levels because It's Always Sunny is an acquired taste as well. You have to like those characters being so horrible, right? But they're funny horrible. So that's the other one that I would say. So if you're going to go visit Deep Discount, check out Season 1 TV sales. We recommend Homeland and Arrested Development. There's a ton of other stuff up there, and I was clicking through it. I thought I could do this, I could do this. And then Deep Discount always does a release of the week, and this week it's the Criterion version, and I love the Criterion collection. Lots of great extra info on their discs, and they remaster the films beautifully. Classic called Lost in America. Julie Haggerty and Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks actually wrote the film as well and directed the film. Gary Marshall's in the film as well. He plays an ad exec who convinces his wife to quit her job as well. He gets fired from his, if I remember this correctly. And they get a Winnebago and they're going to discover America. But what they find is something very different. This is considered one of those classic.
Well, I can't believe I haven't seen it because when I read
reference to it.
Right. When I read the description, it's right up my alley. So they pack it all up. They took $100,000. She lost it all on the roulette wheel in like a week. And then they're now stuck in a trailer park, and they're going to try to get across America to New York for him to get his ad exec job back. So it sounds to me, I can't believe I haven't seen it.
I think we need to get this for you.
Yeah, I can't believe I haven't seen this.
It's a classic, and it's Albert Brooks.
Have you watched it?
I've seen chunks of it, and and they're hilarious. So when I saw that Criterion was doing this, I thought this is the precise opportunity to sit down and watch it end to end because it's often referenced in movie critiques and writers talk about it.
Can't believe I don't have it.
No, yeah, there's tons. Think of all the media that gets produced every year that we don't get to see. Right. So that's the movie of the week from Deep Discount. So visit focusgroupradio.com, look for the Deep Discount logo, click through, and start your adventure. And Garrett.
Thanks, Deep Discount.
Hey, that was a good one today. That was enthusiastic. All right. John Nash here with Tim Bennett. It's the Focus Group. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have the random sample coming up, LGBT headlines from around the country, so stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
That's from another great movie that we love, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
No-Go Girls.
Which was Bob's
screening process
to lure John Nash in. Anyway, welcome back to the Focus Group. This is
a Venus flytrap.
One you bit. And he got you.
Trap closed.
That's it. Welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We our guest list this week, and which means we get to do the random sample, which is John and I pick a number of different periodicals or websites or magazines from around the country and around the globe and pick out LGBT-centered stories and then share them with you guys. So we picked out 3. We each picked out 3 this week, and I was surprised because, as John said earlier in the show, they don't overlap.
Yeah, so. When we put our deck together, our PowerPoint deck, we share it through Dropbox, for example. And so Tim will call me up and say, I've populated the deck with my graphics and my images, and I'll go in. And the only story that was even close to following was the Pennsylvania story. I'll leave that.
Oh, really?
I had seen that as well. And then I caught this one caught my eye though. So
all right. So
the
first story, and I picked this. This came out of the Washington Blade, and this was for this week, July 29th, published. And I chose it because it left me more confused after I read it. And the headline is "Global Bisexual Movement Fights Stereotypes and Seeks Visibility." So I'll ask you the question. You know, I've talked about bisexuality for quite a bit on this show. Do you know any bisexual men?
No, I don't. Unless someone has actually declared that they are.
I don't either. And I know a lot of straight men that are having sex with men, but I don't know any bisexual men. So someone has done this editor here has done Helen Parshall has done a 2-part series where she talks about trying to get people's bisexual stories out and document them. And so she's talked to a number of different advocates around the world and seeing what the issues are related around bisexuality. So one of the people she talked to says, we feel anger and ignorance about sexual orientation and non-monosexuality, said a bisexual advocate based in France. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. He says, bisexual people are called the LGBT community's invisible majority by a 2016 report released by the Movement Advancement Project, which is an LGBT-focused research organization in Colorado. And they highlighted some startling disparities in the experiences of bisexual people throughout the U.S. Here's the thing that surprised me. They said that studies in the U.S. alone show the bisexual community makes up half of the LGBT community. So that's why I asked you, do you know anyone who's bisexual? Because to make it so, if you look at all the LGBT people in the U.S., they're saying half of them are bisexual, the rest are LG and T.
So that would imply that the study, the missing data point there, and I don't mean to pause too much, the missing data point there is, depending on your age, I wonder if you ask somebody if they're gay, straight, or bisexual, depending on your comfort level of a lot of things, maybe if the person's at a certain age, they answer bisexual.
Well, they said many advocates say that many people in the communities are afraid to come out or come out as bisexual because it often feels it sticks them between the gap of being gay or straight. And they said bisexual people, again, make up a majority of the LGBT community and they need support. People need to promote bisexuality. So this is where I got confused. So the reasoning being is this person says, I call myself bisexual because I acknowledge that I have in myself the potential to be attracted romantically and or sexually to people of more than one sex or gender, not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree. So I thought, well, then...
Wouldn't you define, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be...
No, so I know you and I get in trouble on this before.
I would define it as someone who is practicing the lifestyle, meaning they actively have sex with men or they have sex with women. Thinking about the fact that you might be attracted to have a same-sex attraction.
Who's not attracted to good-looking people?
Well, there you go. You know, as an art director, I'm quite capable of looking at beautiful women and saying, "Oh my God, she's." I mean,
we've got some enlightened boys on Alley in the booth. Do you know any bisexual men?
Not one. No. Especially since high school,
No,
college.
not really. Yeah, you tend to figure it out, I assume.
Apparently, it's bisexuals are the largest majority of the LGBT group. Now, I know other shows talk about it, and Michelangelo Signorelli and a lot of them get all crazed about it. You and I have always joked about it. I know that in the straight leather community, there's forced bi, which wives will want to see their husbands have sex with other men, but that's not.
That's different.
That's a whole different.
That's a fetish.
It's a whole different. Yeah, it's a whole different shtick.
Whole different shtick.
So, what were you going to say?
Well, no, I would say that that's fascinating, and I think. My only critique is what I said before, and actually what the guys in the booth said too, is I wonder where age figures into that, how you're answering that question. And I really don't want to shut that conversation down and simply say that it's an age thing, because I think there are people who really do feel equally attracted to both. I don't know any. I don't personally.
And that's what I think is weird. If it is the largest, you and I know an awful lot of people that
you'd think
are in the LGBT community. Right? You'd think we would have met
someone by now.
Somebody that's openly bisexual.
Who can
that's where the rub is with me all the time. Is there's an awful lot of men that I've encountered that are married to women or have relationships with women that have sex with men. They would never say they're bisexual.
Yeah. That I've heard more of. And guys have a whole way of compartmentalizing. And
women, on the other hand, are more open about it.
Far more open, yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so my first.
Now that I brought the show down to a full stop.
Oh no, it's going down lower. It's gonna give. We're skidding. We're out of the gate. It's like a slalom run at the Olympics. We're on the way down, but it goes up again. My first piece. I don't know if you know of a site that used to exist called rentboy.com.
Oh yeah, I love Rent Boy.
Rent Boy.
I would just look at the pictures.
Rent Boy was a site where escorts could advertise their companionship services, and they had pictures and ratings and their in rates and out rates. Did you want them to go to dinner? Did you want to visit them at their apartment?
Go for a walk in the park.
Get a latte. So in August of 2015, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security raided the offices here in New York of Rent Boy, and the owner, Jeffrey Harant, and 6 of his employees were arrested. The charges against the 6 employees were later dropped, but the case against Harant moved forward, and it's been prosecuted, and he's closing in on a sentencing date, and the government would like to give him 15 to 21 months in jail. Now, they claim that from 1997 forward, Rent Boy made over $10 million, and he took home $300,000 a year of that for running the site.
That's what was reported.
That's what was reported. There's the entry to Rent Boy. The takedown of the site actually caused many in the LGBTQ community to be really pissed off about this, because there are plenty of other sites that are up and running, and there are plenty of non-gay sites that do the exact same thing. So why they targeted this particular site at this particular time, the government actually did have a response to that, and they said, while the arrests in this case were covered by the press did nothing to deter the operators of the prostitution websites. A search for escort advertisements on the web turns up tons of stuff. So they're claiming that without actual punishment, the operators of those other websites will likely conclude that it is an unlikely event that they'll get caught or convicted. So they're basically using Jeffrey Harant and Rent Boy as the poster child of what happens to you if you run an escort website.
Well, do you think it's because they were also a big, they had a segment on when we used to be on OutQ, on Larry Flick's show. They were on every week.
Did they really?
Yeah, and they would talk about the different guys.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So they would do all that sort of stuff. So I wonder if it's because they were most visible about it, or more visible about it, and or perhaps some government official went and didn't like his service, and then, we find out it gets shut down, which usually happens, right?
It's an interesting problem, and Harant has already spent a lot of money defending himself. In April 29th filing of this year, he argued he should not be imprisoned. The defense conceded that Harant had violated the law, but it presented him as a highly ethical and accomplished business owner, and Rent Boy as an unalloyed good for escorts, the clients they serve in the LGBT community.
So he's been in jail since last October or something,
no,
right?
He's out on bail and stuff.
Oh, yes, because I was wondering if they give him 15 months, he'd probably just have another 3.
You're exactly right.
Then he gets out with his millions.
Time served. Well, the seizure, they even did a GoFundMe. Rent Boy did a GoFundMe page a year and a half ago, and what they did was they were raising money for his legal defense, and so they sold things from the office, Rent Boy posters. Admittedly, when you take part in a pride parade and you hand out Rent Boy fans and stuff like that, you're basically... I know that everybody turned a blind eye until he was taken down, but and the escorts that unfortunately have to go elsewhere to advertise their services were also very upset, because many of them made a actual living doing this, and some stories were kind of intriguing about that. But there's our first one. So number 2 on the docket.
Before we go to number 2, we got a call. Billy from New York. Do you have a thought for us?
I can't believe Paul Mass is not calling in on these hot topics. Because I know I'm bisexual. I like men and boys, the old classic.
Well, or John was talking about bisexual with Rent Boy.
Come on, fill me in on why you're quiet.
No, we're saying bisexual, B-U-Y. I guess you could be like Rent Boy, like John said as well. No, did you have a thought about the bisexual story?
Well, I think everyone has their own lick of the lollipop. Whatever they want to do is what they want to do, and the orange guy in the office should stay out of everybody's bedroom anyway. Yeah. Do you know any bisexual men? Yeah, I do. That are openly bisexual? No, they're not. That's what I think, and that's a part of what that study was too, is whether how you do people believe them if they say they're bisexual, or how out are they? And that's why we had said their wives would probably divorce them, kill them, and hang them up in the town square. That's always been my point too.
So they're straight men having sex with men.
Yeah. Now, wasn't there a scandal about rent boys and Rush Limbaugh?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Something like that.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Would anybody be surprised?
That one, our Karl Rove.
Oh, Karl Rove, yeah. Well,
throw a name out.
Just to throw
if Paul knows anything, he should call in and get us up to speed.
We'll be on the lookout for Paul. Thanks for calling, Billy.
Thanks, Billy.
Hey, guys.
Thanks. So number 2 for me, and I guess John had seen this one too, but this was from
only the headline.
The Philadelphia Gay News. The headline is, lesbian couple turned away from Pennsylvania bridal shop. So the owner of a Pennsylvania bridal shop claimed that her faith precluded her from selling a dress to a same-sex couple. So if you're watching online or watching the video, there's a couple out of Pittston, Pennsylvania, which is about 2.5 hours north of Philadelphia in West Pittston. And the couple is Shannon Kennedy and Julie Ann Samanas.
I'm assuming Julie Ann is wearing the dress.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Because Julie Ann would wear the dress. The other one was wearing the suspenders. Who's wearing the pants?
Not to stereotype.
Pants in that family.
So they went to the WW Bridal, or the WW Bridal Boutique in Bloomsburg, PA, again, which is about 2.5 hours north of Philly. And they went to fill out the form, and the form asked the bride's name and the groom's name. So in the bride's name, they filled in, and they said budget, whatever that meant. And then they said on the groom's name, they crossed it out and they wrote bride. So they crossed out groom and wrote bride above it, and they put Shannon's name down.
Okay.
And then they said that then they were brought back to 2 women in the back of the store, and they started reviewing their little card about what they wanted. And when she saw that they had crossed out groom, she said, "Is this a same-sex wedding?" And they said they were kind of taken aback by it. They didn't know what to say, and they said, we're getting married. And the owner of the store said, "I don't know if you've heard, but we're Christian and we don't believe in that. Our faith doesn't allow us to believe in that," is what they said. So they said the 2 women just kind of exited, and they said afterwards they thought of a million things they could have said. But they ended up posting it on their Facebook page, and of course it blew up all on Facebook. And they had tagged the Bridal Boutique on Facebook, and then the Bridal Boutique decided to post right back and said, "We reserve the right afforded to us by the First Amendment of the Constitution to live out our lives according to our faith. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We will continue to serve our customers based on the tenets of our faith." So the Philadelphia Gay News tried to contact them, as did a couple of other news groups, and they refused comment. Of course, Pennsylvania lacks statewide LGBT inclusive protections. There are 40 municipalities in the state that do have non-discrimination measures. The mayor of the town and the Bloomberg's council tried to put together a non-discrimination ordinance, but it failed. But they did send the recommendation on to the state thinking that it should be done. But the mayor of Bloomsburg also decided not to make comment. I didn't quite understand this. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It's kind of contradictory, isn't it? If they're saying I'm not going to serve you based on my religion, what this says is all men are created equal. Quiet.
Well, because this goes to the heart of that issue, which is expression and freedom of religion is protected and guaranteed under the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. In the public square of conducting commerce, however, all citizens, I don't understand this. It's a dress. It's a dress, okay? It's a dress in a store. The dress came from a shop somewhere. If you go down the line, what if the woman who was sewing the dress in the factory that made it didn't want to sell it to Christian? I mean...
Well, what if you said, or we're Jewish, we don't believe in the Christian faith, I'm not going to sell you a dress.
And it goes to that whole stupid wedding cake thing. It's flour, it's sugar, and it's water, and it's your time, and it's the oven at 350 for 25 minutes. It just doesn't... There's something... It's just a different way of basically saying... Our faith says, or our interpretation of faith says, you do not have the right to do this, and you're a sinner, or whatever it is. And they're just worming their way around different ways of saying it. And okay,
I can understand a church saying, I'm not going to marry you if that's the church's prerogative, right? That's a private institution.
You know, I said to someone recently, and this to pick up what you're going, someone said I mentioned that Bob and I had gotten married last year, and I was very quick to point out that it was at City Hall, it was a civil service, and it was a recognition by the government that we
Right,
had
and it's a
formed
marriage
contract.
license. It has nothing to do
We
with
didn't
religion.
ask for a blessing. We didn't want to stand under a thing, and
It has nothing to do with religion.
It's yeah. So that always throws me. My number. Oh, anything else?
No, that's it.
My number 2 is something I was pleased to report on. Logo TV is presenting 2 documentaries that I think look pretty interesting to me, and they're coming out at the
Bewitched and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, you know, you and I know them for running a lot of reruns of that stuff, but when they do something like this, I'm really happy. So the first documentary is about a famous hair and makeup artist named Kevin Aucoin. Do you remember him? Tall guy. And it's called Beauty and the Beast in Me. And it's a documentary with rarely shown footage or unseen footage of him as a young man working. And he used to work with supermodels like Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell. And in the 80s and 90s, he was the go-to hair and makeup guy. He was known for not caking it on. He would basically look at a woman and figure out how to bring out the true highlights of her beauty. And what many people did not know, and he didn't know for a long time, was that he was suffering from a very painful disease caused by a pituitary tumor. So he had a tumor on his pituitary gland, which was painful, hard to deal with. He dealt with it through pain pills. He kept the pain at bay that way, but he passed away in 2002, and it was due to this condition, and it was a pretty abrupt thing when that happened. So that documentary airs on Logo August 3rd at 9, 8 Central, and I'm sorry, it's September 14th, 9, 8 Central. The second one I'm going to mention here was an interesting one to me, and it's called Forbidden, and it's about undocumented queer folk in rural America. So this is an interesting conundrum. You're undocumented because your parents brought you here as a child. You happen to be gay. So already you see how this goes on the totem pole. And so it's his, what's the guy's name here? I'm sorry. It's the film's by Tiffany Renard, and it follows a young man named Moises Serrano, and he's from North Carolina. And it follows his path here in the country of realization that he may be in America, and he may consider himself an American, but his hold on any sort of rights is tenuous at best, made worse by the fact that he's LGBT because of how the climate is. So Forbidden, the Undocumented and Queer in Rural America, that premieres August 3rd at 9 a.m.
Sounds like a fun rainy afternoon, slit your wrist kind of.
Well, do you like document? Yeah, John and Garrett are like, well, you know. Do you like documentaries?
I do. I like documentaries, but I will usually. So there's one that's on Netflix now called What the Health.
Oh, really?
That a couple of people recommended I watch, and I put it on, and then after about it's 90 minutes long. After about an hour, I stopped it, and I'll probably finish it. But essentially, it's talking about what the issues are with our diet as Americans.
Okay.
Why so many people are obese, and all the things we should not eat, which are a lot of things that are on your list. They said the 2 biggest things we should not be eating
are.
Can you guess?
I hope it's not eggs.
Eggs, number 1. Eggs are horrible for you, according to this. Documentary.
And
chicken.
Well, would they say chicken because of how it's raised?
That and pretty much fish. Any dairy, any meat. And they talk about what it does to your body, and they said that it's really the government that's promoting these things. And they talked to the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, Susan Komen.
Fish is on there?
Fish is on there.
Fish?
Fish because of the way it's either raised or all the chemicals that get into it from the oceans. And eating other fish, and they just essentially said they were advocating a plant-based diet. And there was I was reading some reviews about it, whether people felt it was maybe some of the facts were stretched, but the logic as they were going through it, I think your conclusion at the end is, geez, maybe I need to eat more fruits and vegetables, or I should be a vegan. I mean, that's kind of where you were going. They weren't showing the animals at the slaughterhouse or any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But they were just talking about what happens to our bodies when meat enters your system.
Oh.
What happens to your body when you have an egg? What happens to your body when you have any sort of milk product or dairy product? And they said, and this affects diabetes. They said it's not about, you don't get fat because of carbs. You really get fat because of meat. And I mean, this was kind of, I'm being very simplistic about
So
it.
you could flip that coin, and there have been documentaries and stories about grains and how you can, when man began cultivating wheat and rye and all that, that's when the problems began. Right, yeah.
You're going to be dead a long time. My grandparents ate meat and fish and cheese. Cheese was another thing. This
Of course, though.
Cheese is nothing but cow pus.
Oh, when you look at the when you look at the diets of our parents, though, what's the big demarcator? And there was a fascinating thing that was done about 5 years ago. The size of the dinner plate was smaller, and portions were smaller.
All you have to do is watch American Bandstand and Soul Train from the 70s and early 80s. Everyone's fit.
Everyone's thin.
All you have to do, go to
size.
YouTube, pull up American Bandstand, pull up Soul Train, the dance line, and look at everybody in the line. There might be one fat kid. Generally, everyone's pretty fit.
Well,
because we weren't eating all the processed foods.
No, we weren't.
And portions were
smaller, and meals were cooked at home. And
even if you watch I Love Lucy, you know, they'll go out and get a grape juice. They'll get a juice. It's like this.
Tiny.
You know,
Now
you go, it's a pail.
Here's another great example. If you look at cocktail glasses from the 50s and 60s.
Oh, yeah, well.
You're talking, what we now drink is one cocktail would be the equivalent of 2 or 3 back in the day. So is that your third one?
No, we were talking about documentaries. I'm off. No, the third one is about I thought this would catch your eye, John. Study reveals which cities have the most hung men in America.
I did peek at this, and I decided where I should retire, right?
So the most hung men in America supposedly live in these 10 cities. So this was done.
How did they get this data?
So they based it upon, there was a sex researcher called Dr. Justin Lee Miller. Now, he's done a lot of research. This sounds like a job for us. Anybody want to guess the average size of a penis?
I think it's 5.2 inches.
I was going to say 6.
Allie?
7 inches.
Well, lucky you, Allie. No.
My fingers crossed.
5.7, but they said women do prefer a little bigger. According to the study.
Allie's like 7, fingers crossed.
But they're saying the average penis size is 5.2 inches, but most men lie.
Of course.
And they said, on average, men will always add an extra inch to their actual size. And they said they're concluding that when it comes to size, men might not necessarily be telling the truth. Because they said that another study, they said they've asked women what the ideal size would be. And aside from Allie, the ideal size would be 6'3" to 6'4".
Very,
what they were saying
very
for size.
Specific.
Yeah.
6'3" to 6'4". Okay.
What they did is they went around, and so this group called GoPuff.com decided they were going to find out who had the largest units within the U.S.
Based on city.
So they based it upon people that bought Magnum-sized condoms. So the sales of the Trojan Magnum condoms, which are for men, they said if you're lucky enough to need them, 8-inch plus measurements.
Wow.
So these are for men. These Magnum condoms are for men who are 8 inches or bigger. And they said if you're lucky enough to have the luxury of buying those, it's really only 3% of the male population.
Okay.
Which they're guessing is that size. You boys buy Magnums?
Condoms?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, we don't know what that is.
Yeah, you know what that is. Anyway, so these are the top 10 cities in America. John's moving to Columbus. So number 10 was Washington, D.C., and I'll just read them right down the line. I think we had a graphic of the cities. But so it's Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston is number 8, Phoenix number 7, Newark, Delaware. It's Newark, New Jersey, Newark, Delaware. Tucson, Arizona. Atlanta, Georgia, number 4. Chicago, number 3. Denver, number 2. And the biggest penises in America are in Columbus, Ohio.
Can I just say something?
82% of the men there are buying Magnum condoms.
Could I just say something about the Tucson thing?
What?
Remember last year when my niece graduated, and I took a road trip down to Tucson to do some cycling?
Uh-huh.
And do you remember my impression of the city? And I keep saying this to people. I mean, I had a great time cycling.
You said it was mattress stores and
hearing aid stores,
hearing aids and mattress
hearing aid
stores.
batteries, tires, and mattresses. So I get the mattress thing, but I don't get.
Well, apparently it's number 5 in sales of Magnum condoms. Did you see any big men around there?
I saw a lot of old people driving slow. So maybe, yeah.
I've lived in Chicago.
Here it comes. And
I think there's two cities missing on here. I'm surprised Minneapolis didn't make the list.
And from your personal experience, Minneapolis.
Portland, Oregon.
I knew you were going to say Portland.
Anyway, that was my third.
That was number 3. Okay. My last one comes from Gay Star News over in London, and they have a really cool part of their site called the Glass Ceiling. And it caught my eye and as a random sample thing because they were profiling a guy named Martin Lukes, who works for he's a business development manager with Transport for London. And earlier this year, he was awarded a British Empire Medal by the Queen for his services promoting LGBT diversity. So the whole umbrella statement for this one is, bring your whole self to work, be out, be proud, and you never know where you're going to go. So he began at what he considers to be an organization that is very, I wouldn't say it was homophobic, but it wasn't, it's transport. It's like
logistics.
You wouldn't necessarily be gay at work. It wasn't something that crossed his mind, but he never has hid his sexuality. He was always very open.
You think he looks gay?
No, to me, no. Maybe the glasses, I don't know.
Other than the glasses and the shirt.
The fact that he's standing in front of a rainbow background, that's
definitely
that's definitely skewing that, right? So he was...
Do I look gay?
Do I sound gay?
Not today.
Not today. Not today, yeah. That's a good line. But he was voted chairman of something called Outbound, which I suppose is their version of an employee resource group for the Transport for London. And as in his role there, he's expanded the LGBT presence. The rainbow flag is now flying above Victoria Station every once in a while. Buses and cabs now feature the rainbow background, and he said it's kind of funny that he looks around and it's all because of him that this has happened, and he's just out and proud and doing his thing, and he likes his coworkers and they like him, and the Queen gave him a medal. So visit Gay Star News and check out the Glass Ceiling section. I thought it was a very nice.
It's a good one.
Good
one to end with.
All the profiles were really very positive, I thought.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so, while we were doing the random sample, I saw a delivery man come.
What did we get?
I believe there's a bag of, John.
We get our DC Cupcakes, so we're going to try those after the break?
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to do the random sample, but maybe I'll scoot and get the bag.
Shop talk we're doing.
I'm sorry, we're doing shop talk. Look, the poisonous sugar has already invaded my system.
First we'll have cupcakes, and then we'll do...
then we'll be off the rails, right?
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Now back to the focus group with Tim and John.
Because he has a lot of chutzpah.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Heads are spinning, heads are spinning.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
I am not gay. I never have been gay.
That's my voice.
Hey, welcome back to the focus group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host John Nash, where we always take an entertaining look at the world of business because we're all business except when we're not. A couple of weeks ago, we had a guest on our show, Terrence Noonan, who's a six-time Emmy award-winning TV producer. 6 times. I had 5, but updated 6. And one of the shows he produced was DC Cupcakes. And he said to us he was going to send us some DC Cupcakes, and sure enough, he did. And this is from the reality show, which was DC Cupcakes on TLC. And the owners, Catherine and Sophie sent these over. They've got shops in New York, Boston, LA, Atlanta, Georgetown, and Bethesda. And you can find them on Facebook at DC Cupcakes. And they sent us
a great selection.
Oh my gosh!
Are you guys checking your box out in the booth? Oh, John, which one did you try?
Looks like a vanilla cake chocolate with a little pink sprinkle on it.
Oh, do they have some too?
Looks delicious.
Yeah, there's 2 boxes.
Oh my goodness, 2 boxes! Holy crap!
Good cupcake.
Any of our logo on them? No, not yet. These look, I don't know if you can see from John, you held these up to the camera, but they're unbelievable. We should get a picture with your phone before we dig in, but I see one that I want, which looks like key lime. They know John well because this looks like a peanut butter chocolate, and there's a coconut chocolate. That's like a sundae thing. Look at that with the nuts, John, and the cherry on it.
I gotta get a picture. Oh, this is perfect.
Got to get a picture, and then we'll put it on our Facebook page. But as the clock is running, I'll take us into shop talk, and then we can have our cupcakes after then, right? Because otherwise we'll be stumbling now.
While you're talking. Hey, Allie, which one did you get?
Looks to be carrot cake.
Wow. Oh my God, carrot cake?
Yeah, something different.
Well,
Well,
try this blue one.
all right. Well, I'm surprised you're not doing the chocolate.
Look what broke off. It's a little blue.
A whale.
There's a whale going, like a
Oh, that's
mermaid or a
cute.
whale.
God, these look fantastic. Well, Shop Talk that
Shop Talks about cupcakes
picked
today.
this week came from the Ladders, and the headline was "Smart Weekend Rituals Makes Your Work Week Less Anxious." And essentially, this was a article that came in to a website called The Ladders, and it talked about how people sometimes get anxious before the start of the week on a Monday, or not being organized, and how to put yourself together on the weekend before you start your work week. And they gave 6 different tips, and one of them I know John employs quite a bit. The first one was they said that on a Sunday or during the week, you should write down your weekly goals and limit them to only 6 at a time. And they said you should do your goals. What are you eating?
This is one of the best cupcakes I've ever had. Do you guys agree?
You know what we're going to do?
So good.
And,
No, we're going to. All right, so 6.
why don't we not do Shop Talk and enjoy the cupcakes? We'll do Shop Talk.
No, we could intersperse Shop Talk. So we'll intersperse. So pick your cupcake.
I've got
These are the guys. I don't know about you, but the frosting is
Frosting is delicious.
amazing.
So
it's
good.
not too sweet.
Nope.
It's just sweet, and the cake is actually fresh.
Out of it.
Yeah, very good.
I made a mess. Ugh, do you
So-
have a napkin?
No. Oh, no, they're going to.
I'm going to eat it later.
You got to eat it now.
Can't pull it out. So anyway, they said write down goals. Only do 6, and then prioritize the goals once you write them down, Joe.
And then, so you write your 6 goals down, and then you look at the 6, and you decide which is the one, which is priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the big thing about this, you got it. The big thing about this tip was that you stick to the list. So if you start with priority number 1, finish priority number 1, and move through. So how is that, Tim?
It's good, but I made a mess. I dumped it.
Well, it looks cleaner
I'm
now.
all full of this. I think these might need to be refrigerated.
Really?
I don't know. Mine's melting. All right, what was number 2? Terrence, you threw the show off the hook with these cupcakes.
That's what hey, it's a whole new show, right? This is something that I talked to Tim about at lunch, and I didn't really know I did this, or I didn't know that this was the name for it, but it's called Give Batching a Try. So batching is basically planning to do things that are alike within the same period of time. Now, if you're like Garrett or John or myself, and you know production, and there's a rhythm and a flow to things, batching is you would say to yourself, okay, if it's Garrett and he's doing audio, I'm going to conform all the audio, and you sit and you work through that task because you're in that state of mind. And then if John says, I'm going to edit video, specific videos, I'm going to do promos or whatever, you're batching that job. That way you could do a bunch of tasks at once, but when you're batching, you definitely want to group things together that all make sense, and you're all going to be, and so you could do that, then switch to something
Or
different.
it could be something as simple as you're doing the download of a video, and you know that's going to take maybe 20 minutes, and you say, oh, I've got to write out my electric bill and my cable bill and pay that. So I pay my bills while that's downloading.
While you're doing something else.
So you're batching it, those are done. The third thing, and we'll move through these quick, is don't obsess over what hasn't worked for you. So they said a lot of people spend too much time in negative energy. And if something happened last week, or you try to create this narrative and you keep focusing on a lot of the negative stuff, they'll just pile on one another, and then you'll never move forward. And they gave a big, long explanation, but essentially my takeaway was don't obsess over things that haven't worked out or things that might have been missteps. Just move forward and start again. So it was number 4.
And the big thing that she's talked about there in the article was negativity. You associate negative thoughts with things that didn't work out. It's a self-fulfilling narrative.
Yep.
This other one, this to me, is this what you're referring to? Pick a couple of work outfits to make your life easier. I cannot agree with this more. You know who figured this one out in spades? Steve Jobs.
Yep.
He had the same pair of sneakers he wore every day. I mean, he had 27 brands, compares to them, but it was New Balance or something. I mean, he had boxes of these things. The black turtleneck, and he didn't want to put 1 ounce of thought into what he wore. He just wanted to show up and get going.
Lee Garfinkel, famous ad guy in New York, same way, black T-shirt, jeans every day. Didn't have to think about it. Yeah. Richard has a very good friend, Lisa, who's a creative director at a big retailer. Same thing. She's in black. She has an outfit that she wears. It's her outfit. and that's that. Hair's the same, makeup's the same, out she goes.
You know, for me, I just got some new shirts, and I always laugh at this. I bought 2 new shirts, which means 3 have to leave the closet. If you only have like 10 dress shirts, you're limiting yourself to making a decision. It's a 1 in 10 principle. What goes with jeans? It simplifies life.
Number 5 is simple. We've all heard this. We all try to do it. Is free up your living space. So get rid of the clutter. If you haven't used it, you haven't touched it. It's on your desk. It's in your office. It just ends up being an excess baggage. Just get rid of it. I'm guilty of this one in spades. Actually, this morning I had a call with Matt, and I asked him to come help me purge my office. You know what a lot of my office stuff is, though, is books. Yeah. When I used to get a lot of books. You were good about donating them. Mine are stacked, and they need to go away.
You know, I for a while I kept them because I thought maybe I'll read them, but I'm not going to read them. And no, free up your living space is a big one because you don't want the clutter of where did I find it, where do I...
Well, and if I ever had to pick up and move quick, I'm not moving them.
Yeah.
And what was the last one?
This one, another one I'm really a big fan of. Prepare meals ahead of time. It's something as simple as if you know that you're preparing vegetables in advance and putting them in a Tupperware container. I would expand this to simply say, when you go grocery shopping, plan at least 4 meals for the week and have all the ingredients handy. Or Tim taught me this one a long time ago, and it's a well-learned lesson. Crock pot.
Yeah.
Or if you're making something big, make it early in the week, save the rest, and you have plenty of meals for the rest of the week. And there's no thought there, and you're going to eat healthy, too.
Or you go to Costco and freeze it.
Yep, well...
So that was the, although we were interrupted by our cupcakes, that was our shop.
I would say that was a sweet interruption.
I know, and I can't wait to dig into mine.
We'll start. I'm the one that says goodbye, so you can, you can eat
making
away. Hey, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, John, Garrett, and Allie. Thank you, Tim. We want a big thanks to Terrence, Catherine, and Sophie down at DC Cupcakes. Look at this. We got lots, and I took a picture. We'll put that on Facebook. Thank you, Deep Discount. Visit deepdiscount.com. Get there by going to focusgroupradio.com. Click on their logo and go down the rabbit hole and check out. This week is the Season 1 sale for TV stuff. We mentioned Homeland and Arrested Development, but there's a ton of other stuff there as well. And a big thank you to Volkswagen Group of America. The Atlas is available. It's their big 7-seater. It's a 7-seater, right, Tim? And I believe the new Tiguan is just showing up in showrooms now, and it's being test-driven around the country, so keep your eye on that. That's it for us, folks.
I can't believe how good this is.
Look at the frosting dripping over Tim's finger.
It's got like a crust at the bottom, like a graham cracker.
Graham cracker.
Unbelievable.
Like a key lime pie.
Making a mess.
All right, we're going to go back to the cupcakes. Have a great week. Do not text and drive, right, Tim? Don't text. How do you say it? Arrive alive.
Arrive alive. Don't text and drive.
Only Tim can say it. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Oh my God, these are good.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.